to the zoning guy.
From what I understand, there was a post on one of the groups. Somebody was complaining about zoning, and Mr. Otto and the mayor
all the time.
Right. And Mr. Otto and the mayor both got involved in this. Mr. Otto chose to go out to the woman's house because that's when Team Huber, as they're called, when they were running, that was one of the major things that they were running on, not only transparency like you agree with, but being more involved with citizens. There was a huge lack of council involvement with citizens at that time. So I think what he did is went out to the lady's house, and from what I understand of the whole situation is he wrote a letter back just reporting back what he found out, an inquiry, if you will, that's actually in the charter. That's not how
you've read the letter, though. I know you have, right?
I did. I sure did.
All right. I wouldn't characterize that letter as writing back about the inquiry. But go ahead. Go ahead and finish your thought.
Oh, no. I was just saying, so what part, I don't understand what part of that wouldn't be an inquiry. If you go out, because both the mayor, and they even said it during their discussion before they probably shouldn't, you're right, they shouldn't have spent 40 minutes talking about what he did wrong, what he did that should come down the line if they decide to go after a special counsel. Basically, what I'm getting at is the inquiry comes in. I'm sorry. What they said.
Yeah, we're breaking up.
Yeah. Can you hear me now? Hello? So basically, what I was trying to say here is that his being an inquiry, his only mistake as they were discussing was not CCing the city manager. So I don't think that's all. That is a mistake, and that would have solved this problem right there because Mr. Schomer could have talked to him initially. But, you think about this zoning thing, but can you imagine if a council member were to go, hey, my neighbor didn't get his snowplower, so he calls up there and calls the snowplow department directly instead of calling Schomer. Or, hey, I saw some graffiti on this thing, calls the anti-graffiti people instead of calling Schomer. If the council can't be making those phone calls to staff all day long, right? And that's the part that I actually felt Schomer did kind of poorly at the beginning, where, you'd have people saying, hey, we got a tree branch overhanging a sidewalk, a council member, right? And then Schomer would run out there and the parks, or the guys would be out there cutting down the tree branch on the sidewalk that day instead of cutting down the whole row of tree branches in the other part of town, right? So you can't have council members calling staff saying, wouldn't it be nice if you did this here? Wouldn't it be nice if you didn't plate this lawn? That's why that's in the charter. So I have a whole lot of heartburn with the letter that Glenn wrote. Okay. Like what? Go ahead.
All right. No, just that. If every council member were to call up zoning for a particular issue, all he would be doing was dealing with council members. Right? It's the city manager's job to talk to zoning and reestablish what the policy is on all that. It's the city manager's job to tell the streets department which roads to plow or which ones to need to have the potholes fixed. Right?
You're breaking up.
One word.
This has been an interesting podcast. Hello. It keeps going in and out. I'm going to try him back here. 1 second.
Hey, I'm on right by Springfield. I'll be home in a few minutes.
All right. Sorry about that.
Well, that's mobile is good in some places. It's good around my house, but not so good on trips.
Yeah, and when I get back, we'll do this again and in person where there's like 2 microphones and headphones and all that good stuff.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
So
just to wrap it up, I don't want to keep you much longer. So you have an issue with what Glenn wrote, and it should have went to the city manager, in your opinion.
Yeah, like I said, you can't have people calling the streets department and saying, "Hey, why don't you plow Stillmar Road out here? I'd really like to have Stillmar Road plowed." You can't. You have to go through the city manager and say, "Hey, I know there's an old person on Stillmar Road, 2 old people on Stillmar Road. Why don't you plow their driveway or plow their road?"
Okay.
Right? Otherwise, the things don't work, and that's why it's one of only 2 or 3 restrictions for Congress. The city manager, he's the one that does it. So a letter like that to zoning, even courtesy copied, would probably be one that if I were the city manager, I would say, "Hey, Glenn, let's not write a letter like that to zoning again. Come to me first." That's, to me, that's just the way it should be.
So do you think politics there was something that was mentioned at the meeting. Do you think politics has something to play into this? Like somebody was waiting for one of the members of Team Huber to slip up and so they could pounce on it?
Okay. It would be ridiculous for this letter, even if he had been told previously 4 times not to write a letter like this, to cause the city to hire an attorney to investigate. All right? You can't kick somebody off the council because they want a zoning change, right? Especially if it's non-threatening. That particular rule really has to do with ordering staff around and making a normal staff person uncomfortable.
Right.
Right. That's what that rule is for. And if that council member
the spirit
were doing it on a daily basis, running down to there, then you might have an issue. But there's no way that you could ever justify kicking a person off the council for that letter. Right? Now, these people might do it and might succeed because you have to go to court to get it back, and is it worth $300 a month and all that aggravation? And that's another issue I have, where our city attorney is going, "Well, we could do this to the school and withhold this payment because we know they're not going to sue us." Right?
Mm-hmm.
They would win if they did sue us, but we know they're not going to sue us. That's the kind of advice that's annoying. So, they could kick Glenn off for this or pretend that it's a thing, but there's no reasonable person that would think that this is something that should warrant an election. Right?
Right.
But
and it's during an election year.
And this kind of thing are willing to do stupid things like saying, "Hey, we can offer Schomer a 5-year contract," even though our charter specifically tells us that you can't have a term on city manager's contract. Specifically. But as long as you don't have somebody that's willing to spend $20,000 suing over this, we win.
Right.
We can put that in.
Well, nobody sued.
So you have a whole bunch of.
Yeah, nobody sued the city of Heber Heights for a lot of different reasons that they probably could have won on, but nobody's suing the city right now. We can just end it right here. I think we've talked about a lot, and then just when I get back, I'll be back at the end of June. We'll get together sometime and do a podcast one-on-one where it won't be so difficult.
Yeah, if you like, and issue, and you want to have a 5-minute.
You're breaking up again. All right, folks. Well, we're going to end it right here. I want to thank Tom McMasters for coming on the podcast today. I'm sorry this podcast was so rough. Hey, he was driving home from New York. I'm in Texas. That's a little bit of mileage. So we talked about a lot of different things. And just so you all are aware, I'm going to put out a new podcast here another one coming up shortly. I am going to end the podcast now. We're gonna close it out. I want to thank Tom McMasters for coming on Truman's Town Hall, former mayor of the city of Heber Heights. I want to thank you for downloading this episode, for listening to this episode, and for sharing with a friend. There are more and more folks listening to Truman's Town Hall, and I appreciate that. My only goal is to get the word out. It's your job to do the research. It's your job to make sure you are holding your government responsible for the actions that they make. The people have the power. If the people don't utilize that power and flex their muscle as a collective, government will run amok. Anyway, this is Matt Truman. Thank you for listening to Truman's Town Hall.